I don't think I'd be anywhere near where I am, and it's nowhere yet, if I hadn't experienced failure in many spheres in life, especially in this business. What kind of failure is, what kind of money did I blow the first 4 or 5 years of earning money?
Really?
Money beyond my imagination. Uh, Second failure is, by default, you learn as you grow that there's no one way of trusting people in your immediate space, sometimes including family. And you make judgments and you make decisions and you bring people in your space. Until they're not there to build with you, you are an opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
but a meal ticket.
Yeah, so it's the failure. I don't know. Yeah, well, failure is the right word because you either do something good or don't. The inability to identify the right people in your journey. The other elements of failure are really where my heart and my passion is, and is being a South African. And I don't call it failure, but the idea that there's so much that one would have loved to and still want to contribute away from in front of the stage and in front of the camera, but one is unable to create, for lack of a better word, a conglomerate of South Africans, black, white, to say, as an entity, we're worth so much money, we're worth so much. Let's take a break from the talent and figure out how to realign and create a relationship between business, the politicians, and the talent. That triangle is at the center of what I believe is non-existent.
702.
The upside of failure.
Sometimes failure is the foundation of greatest success stories.
The upside of failure. We are in studio with the phenomenal Lebo M. Ntate.
Welcome to Lebza Day.
It's Lebza Day. It's so exciting. It's our day.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I am good. And I mean, it's so epic when I just think about how do you feel when you think about you're celebrating 60 years of life, 30 years of contributions to the Lion King, that time actually went fast. Do you also think, has it really been that long?
I'm not wired that way because I'm trying to relate to 60. In terms of the career, I'm sort of adjusting to the reality that we've driven this historical, iconic project for 30 years, and with so many elements of it, from the movies to the Broadway productions, and sold out arenas around the world with myself and Hans Zimmer. And to me, initially, and in the middle of all of this, it always starts with, I'm at work. I think when we left the Hollywood Bowl 30th celebration,
Yes.
because it was so unique, it sort of became a reality that, no, man, it's been quite a journey with this franchise here.
And of course, it is, I would say, Lion King being the standout point of your career. Do you sometimes feel that it overshadows other things you have done, in the sense that when people talk to you, the first thing they think is usually that? I doubt people come to you and say, "Oh, there's Lebo M, the reality TV star."
Whoa.
That's
a good one. Well, I can relate to that also, reality TV star. I know we had a project on air.
Which is a reality TV show.
In the reality realm.
So you are a reality TV star.
But I sort of like the question you asked because I can't get to the magnitude and embrace the magnitude of the success of The Lion King. But I also don't know how to look at it different than, let's say, for example, if you ask me what my favorite movie is, my favorite soundtrack is, it's not The Lion King.
No, I would imagine though, because even Mandoza was sick of Ngalagata at some point.
I'm building to that.
Because it's like, how many times can you circle of life?
Let me sip my coffee. I've had so much water. I thought Ritlaka Lebza Day here. Anyway, my point is, it's absolutely a turning point in my life and my career. Yeah. But because fortunately, I think from age 14, when I entered this business here at home, long before The Lion King, I was trained to approach every project as work, which is different from I have to wake up and make a hit record or make a hit
Yes.
movie or a hit Broadway show. So what I meant, what my favorite soundtrack is, and probably will always be, is The Power of One, which is my first soundtrack. Not only because of the music, but the journey that goes from Power of One, which gets myself and Hans Zimmer, the soundtrack of The Lion King. But also, people look at milestones differently.
Yes.
I look at it from what is the foundation, what inspired, how did I enter by default the soundtrack world? And that led then, it's almost like Power of One was the audition for The Lion King.
Yes.
And The Lion King obviously is special. I used to, maybe sometimes I still do, refer to The Lion King as a blessing and a curse.
And I can believe that because having spoken to many people who are super successful with that one defining moment,
Yeah.
and as a creative, you want to continue to grow and evolve. I mean, the last thing I saw was D'Angelo, that album from the music video, How Does It Feel? And he's topless. And how that took him into the stratosphere of being the king of soul at the time.
Right.
But then he wanted to leave the industry because all that happened at his concerts were people wanting him to take his shirt off. And now they weren't listening to his music. So the curse part, I get it, because now also you want to evolve it as a creative. You want to offer other things. In the case of yourself, it's Lion King. In the case of Emandoza, it's an Ngalagata, where maybe you want to evolve, but the public is not ready to receive you as anything other than that.
The curse has got nothing to do with me taking off my clothes.
You know, you've got cameras in studio. You can do it today,
never.
just for today. Ne?
Never. Let me try to qualify that metaphor. Is when something is so successful and so huge globally, it brings in various elements of dimensions. Loads of cash, loads of your face being associated not only with the brand but with the product itself, but also expectations from other people that you are that and you're limited to that. That's
As in you're being boxed now.
yeah, you've been boxed. I mean, one of the biggest issues I've always had in Hollywood, growing up in Hollywood and coming back home, is before anything, I'm a South African artist and I'm an African artist. And thankfully, my career, my journey plotted itself that most of the projects I end up doing have always been centered around who I am as a South African. But I also know that I want to do soundtracks, and I've done some soundtracks that have nothing to do with Africa or nothing to do with my South Africanness. So that's the first part is a blessing because I thrive on being who I am as a South African and African artist on probably the biggest project in history of African content at the highest quality, right? So my creative life in that way is satisfied and my being a South African is satisfied. But also the other side of me being a creative is I love R&B, I love jazz, I've done all kinds of other soundtracks, but they are not and may never be to the level of success of The Lion King, and that from a creative point of view feels like a curse. And obviously the business side of things becomes even a bigger problem. Now that's when you come to how someone like me conducts business in South Africa, which is my home base. The idea that a artist is not a businessman is my biggest part of this segment of a curse. Because fortunately, I grew up under some of the greats from our country, and I was trained in the streets and trained in the boardroom and trained in the studios. So I know both worlds. The idea that I can walk in a boardroom and propose a project or a business idea, I'll always be an artist. even with some of the dumbest people in the world, that you walk into a room that you need their signature, whether it's a politician or a businessman, the minute you have that stigma, I think is what has held our country in the creative sector behind, particularly and especially when it comes to black people, is that we are not expected to negotiate. We're not expected to
Ask for
make
more.
proposal or ask, but more importantly, demand because you know your value. Yeah, so that's just long short of it.
And I think what's so great about you mentioning that you are able to wear both caps. I mean, Mum Yvonne Chaka Chaka was with us 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we were just speaking about the nature of the industry and why we're still so far behind. Part of it is exposure. I share with people that thank goodness I come from a family of accountants, because the first thing I got told is, hey, that paycheck, SARS is the first one coming. You must be worried about SARS, second to fearing God, you know, and all those things. And it means that our industry is often undermined as it's fun.
Yes.
Why enjoy it? It's fun, but it's still, much as it's fulfilling, it's still a job. The same way that I come here, I laugh on the radio station.
Absolutely.
Sometimes people think, no, but I get you're having fun. Hey, we'll offer you a meal. Can you come through?
Yeah.
No, you're paying for
It's
my
like
time.
every parent wants their child to be a lawyer, a doctor, or a manager, but never realize that you can also probably make 10 times the amount of money as a lawyer or a doctor in the entertainment and creative sector. So I like what you said earlier, but I think that thought process belongs to maybe about 15 years ago, you know, that I get why I enjoy it, you know what I mean?
But there's still those people who
yeah.
Lebo M, bina that part.
Yeah. No, manaka o tsiba buina jeka wena, ke motlise ko ha. No, I get those. And the
Can I bring my child? They can sing.
and the people that, even the closest friends, you know, when I look at them, I'm like, but well, you realize that your child is talented, and you want to dismiss my journey, how I got to where I am. But what you're not proposing is, Lebs, what do we need to get my kid to your level globally? And I say, no, what we need is investment. What?
Yes.
Into an institution that teaches your kid that your talent is nothing, but the business and the legal aspect of that talent is more important. So that when your kid gets to my age, they're 10 times more successful than me. You understand what I'm saying? And I get this a lot. And it's actually the first time I talk about that. But because I have friends that know that.
Yes.
They call me, hey, Manaka, blah, blah, blah. And I like that and I appreciate that. But it makes no sense to me, because if you want to invest in your child, why bring me your child, but you don't want to learn the business that you're trying to throw your child into, at least from a business point of view? Because if you come to me and say, let's build a studio. Nah, why? Because your kid is talented.
Or which music, which instrument should my child
Which
start
instrument
with?
should my kid start?
Yeah.
That's for you to discover. My job is to say to you, let's put $100 million, not rands, to put your kid into a path that at age 3 they start learning how to play piano. But actually, me and you are also investing and seeing cash 10 years from now. But we get more than cash. We get the value of your child being a global asset to you and to me and to country and to family.
We're going to take a break so that I can show you videos of my child singing, and then you must tell me what must happen when we come back.
How about on Ntebele?
We come back, the upside of failure with Lebo M. The upside of failure with Lebo M. What now? Your laugh is contagious. Now you're making me laugh.
Nothing.
011-830-0702. The WhatsApp line 0727021702. We are in conversation just with milestone moments, I would say, of Lebo M. And we touched on the curse of doing such an epic project, which is ongoing, because that's the other thing. It's not a project that just you did it once, it's done. It's ongoing.
Yes,
it
ma'am.
continues to have life in its many forms, which I'm sure is the biggest blessing of it. Many sit and dream of earning in US dollars for doing something that they love. But maybe can you share with us what are the not so obvious downsides that we may not see? Because many are creative, be they a fine artist, a singer, performer. You know, once you feel like you've reached a certain level at home, you would like to get bigger recognition because ideally you want a career that's sustainable. And we know with arts, which means continuous practice, training, it's not something that you can do for free. Being able to sing is not sufficient. Even the best singers in the world have vocal coaches.
Absolutely.
Now, what are the difficulties that maybe people aren't aware of? Is it things like Hollywood politics? Is it that you still have people who expect you to be something when you're trying to evolve into something else? Is it having to, be locked into projects that you're trying to now get out of because it no longer fits who you are? What would you say it is?
I think I'm going to use a really silly but known cliche. It's hard to get on top and harder to stay there. I think the Hollywood syndrome, which quite honestly is a global syndrome because Hollywood in our sector dictates not only the creative but also the business side of this industry, is very advantageous, but it's extremely expensive to get on top and stay on top. That's from a Hollywood and global aspect. You can make a lot of money, but it's quite expensive to keep that money.
Can you explain why? Because I understand why, but I think share for all the listeners why that's the case. And I mean, it's not just the simple part of the more you make, the more you start to need, but your team gets bigger, your payroll gets bigger, and for you to get to the next level, you need multiple creatives, you need and.
Yeah, before you even get to your team gets bigger because once you enter a certain level in the business, whether as an entertainer or as a producer, there's a set infrastructure that is not yet that strong at home. It starts with lawyers. You have a choice to sign a contract or not. You have $2 or 2 rands, and you're looking at this piece of paper. It says once you sign here, you're going to have 5 million rands or $5 million. Depending on the kind of money you spend and the kind of lawyer, if you have one, that is going to advise you to put that signature, you're either going to be broke sooner or in debt sooner. So I had the privilege of being exposed to that world much earlier in my career. The worst part about that is that factor does not go away because the bigger you become, in any sense of bigger, meaning famous, or there are people that are not famous but make a lot of money.
Quietly at the back.
Yeah, you need lawyers, you need managers, you need publicists, and in everything that you need the best in the world. And all of that comes with a significant expense that comes from that first $100 that you make, or first $1 million that you make, or first million rands that you make. If we are, as we are currently not trained to understand that, then you won't understand what sustainability is, because sustainability has very little to do with your talent. Sustainability has very little to do with the kind of project that you are doing. As big as Lion King is, as a franchise, it does not sustain me. It's the people behind me that make sure that I don't sign dumb contracts. It's the advisors. We have about 14 Lion King productions, Broadway productions around the world. And from the very first Lion King, we started hiring South African talent. And we thought we'd done enough to prepare people. Imagine hiring someone at 17 and 18 that has never seen a rand, never had a bank account, but they have a talent. And you take that someone to London, to New York, to Japan or Germany or anywhere, within a month they have a bank account. and they are earning money that their own parents have never earned, and in foreign currency. It took years for us, and we're still working with that, where we discover talent. We hire more South Africans a year than any production in history, and they all earn foreign currency. And now, since I produced Lion King South Africa in 2008, we hire a larger number. We hire a larger number of South Africans, and we still are trying to find a way to help people manage money.
The upside of failure with Lebo M, renowned composer and producer, businessman. He says he's not a reality star. I'll say reality genre talent. Is that accurate?
That's close.
011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line 072-702-1702. I just had a thought, before we went to the news, that you were talking about you're trying to find a sustainable model, because giving a person money does not ensure that they are sustainable. It's the same as giving fish and not teaching a person how to fish. And now they've got a whole family, because now you don't look at one person as one person, they're a household. Yep. And you're trying to figure out the system of how to make it work, that these young people can move on to other projects and continue to grow and build. Have you found the solution yet, or is it something you're still trying to figure out? Because the difficulty, the other day we were talking on air about what are your black tax boundaries, and people were like, gang, black tax. And I had to say, let's not forget that the Ubuntu thing comes with not just layers of, okay, Lebo's the one who made it out, he's going to take care of us. It's layers of guilt, it's layers of not being able to say no, it's layers of, which I'm sure even on your own journey, you've had to experience this, where you're not this endless well that everyone can dip into. But have you figured out the solution and the system yet for these young kids that you groom and develop and help grow? Or is it an ongoing thing because our issues in our country have not actually been resolved?
I think first things first, the reality is all of us as individuals from childhood have our own journeys and our own experiences define how we as adults end up plotting our way through. The idea that the search for solutions really, unfortunately, for us in our sector, especially the experience that we have externally with the people that we've hired, young people, even older people, is that you need a particular infrastructure. Now, that infrastructure does not exist at home. Nah? If it exists for a very small percentage of elites who are connected. So it's not different from politics, right? The type of infrastructure I'm talking about is if you don't have a government policy holistically that is related to the creative arts and the business of the creative arts, and I can comfortably say it does not exist. It has not existed in 30 years. Just democracy. If we don't have that, and we send, say, 100 young people next month to London and to New York, and they're not able to, first of all, sustain themselves, or if they get into legal battles or legal problems, they don't have a government fund or a government policy that protects them as South African citizens. I'll give an example of that. If you bring an American artist here, and I know many cases like that, and they get cheated, or someone here, promoter, messes with their contracts, the first thing they do is American embassy. So any American artist is protected around the world from their base. If you have a South African artist, whether it's big or small, that goes anywhere in the world and runs into any kind of problems, we don't have a policy and that regulates that.
Which means you'd have to go private litigation route if you needed help. And that requires money.
You're already trying to live in New York, and then you're already trying to sustain a family in South Africa that's not limited to your parents and your siblings, quote unquote, black tax. Black tax hits you domestically and globally. Now, if you don't have that, which we don't, and at the particular sustainable what's the word I'm looking for?
Mpolelle ka Sesotho.
If the industry is not regulated from a global point of view, what do you have? You have people coming outside South Africa, and it's been happening for years, and take someone from the streets or even from the world. Your kid can be taken, who wants to be a star, can be taken by somebody who doesn't even know the language, but they know the talent, and that person will register your kid as their property. Nah? Take your kid around the world, fill up stadiums, fill up everything, but your kid is actually a supplier while they're a resource. Now, if you don't have government that regulates external exploiters of talent, which has been long before 1994 and is even bigger now, where I can't even think of examples, but they're there, where talent is given for us, especially those from the black community. But the amount of exploitation that comes from someone from Australia, from New York, that hears a choir. Let me just hypothetically do that. Hears a choir, loves the choir, but knows what to do administratively and legally to own it as a property. And they fill up New York stadiums. They own the property. And then they do more. They will invest in that property and invest in foreign currency and make more money. But mine and your kid, if we don't start thinking that way 10, 20 years from now, end up being an employee for someone else who becomes a multimillionaire.
And it doesn't just happen to South Africans, it happens to Americans as well.
Not to the extent that it happens in South Africa.
Oh no, definitely, because the advantage will always be, like you said, the Hollywood dream. So anybody can entice you with a lot, not being from there. It is a very far off dream that many people have, even if they're not in this industry.
Yes.
That's why, what do they refer to it? The American dream, right? I'm wondering, you've had this wonderful career which continues to grow and build. You've just reached the 6th floor in life. What for you is failure where you are now? What represents failure?
I don't think I'd be anywhere near where I am, and it's nowhere yet, if I hadn't experienced failure in many spheres in life, especially in this business. What kind of failure is, what kind of money did I blow the first 4 or 5 years of earning money?
Really?
Money beyond my imagination. Second failure is, by default, you learn as you grow that there's no one way of trusting people in your immediate space, sometimes including family. And you make judgments and you make decisions and you bring people in your space. Until they're not there to build with you, you are an opportunity. Yeah,
but a meal ticket.
Yeah, so it's the failure. I don't know. Yeah, well, failure is the right word, because you either do something good or don't. The inability to identify the right people in your journey. The other elements of failure are really where my heart and my passion is, and is being a South African. And I don't call it failure, but the idea that there's so much that one would have loved to and still want to contribute away from in front of the stage and in front of the camera, but one is unable to create, for lack of a better word, a conglomerate of South Africans, black, white, to say, as an entity, we're worth so much money, we're worth so much. Let's take a break from the talent and figure out how to realign and create a relationship between business, the politicians, and the talent. That triangle is at the center of what I believe is non-existent. In fact, to the contrary, you get pushback. You get, when you're confident and you know yourself and you know your value, the only way other people that don't agree with you is to label you arrogant and all kinds of things. So I'm battling with that right now, because some of the things that we would love to do here at home are failing because one has not been able to successfully create an infrastructure or be part of an infrastructure that exists that then expands beyond one's career and self.
The upside of failure with Lebo M, as we're coming to the end of our conversation. There's a message from Sichaba in Mayerton who says, Relebogile, my favorite Lebo M song is Kopano Part 3, The Journey, from the movie Tears of the Sun. And we take your calls on 011 883 0702, the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. Dr. Philemon Mahuma from Midstream says, it's so good listening to Lebo M. I derive a lot of inspiration from creatives like him who have reached pinnacles of great success. And another one simply says, great man. We have your voice notes on 072 702 1702.
Hi, afternoon, Tabo here at Relebogile. You know, I started to have by far much respect for what the artists are doing, the arts people, or the people who are in the fraternity of art, like Abu Bralebu there. You know, when my child wanted to do drama and all that, to become an actor, a writer, a producer, I thought, you know, sometimes we see these things, the end product, but we are never sure of how much work they put into that. It's enormous, I must really say. It's enormous. They work very hard. Sometimes you can't even speak to her for a week or so. Keep up the good work, guys, of entertaining us and making life bearable. Thank you.
Halala. Do you still believe in marriage?
I always will. It's like, do you still believe in breathing?
So you're just going to pinda footy. Because I have to ask, I find being a creative, and I see my creative counterparts, as creators, we're not easy to be with. But also we love love. We are so in love with love.
I think that, and I've never addressed this, the reality is, yes, I'm aware, and it's limited only to South Africa, what the tabloids and what the mindset is about who I am. When you're a brand, or in this instance, a overexposed brand, you are also an opportunity for people who do worse than you to hide behind that. You know, the reality is, been married only 3 and coming on my 4th one, but I know personal friends I've been doing much worse things than that. They're just, I mean, really, you know, we probably have the largest number of deadbeats in this country versus me being married or not being married, but because they're not in the public eye, or someone is actually, as in my case, not orchestrating that, which has made me, only in South Africa again, a sort of tabloid face, is orchestrated. And sometimes it gets orchestrated from boardrooms. Sometimes it gets orchestrated from, you know, within my relationships. I don't pay attention to that, but my point I want to make is the reality is there are probably a lot more outside the overexposed space of being famous people that have gone through much worse marriage problems than I have. The sad reality that I think about it that doesn't bother me is our thought process and how we regard relationships is so absent-minded that a guy that tries to build and rebuild from a family point of view becomes a persona non grata, versus a guy that's married but abusive to his wife and to his children and has 3 slay queen girlfriends and blows more money externally than he does with his own children. So I'm very in tune with that type of thought process that says, no, I'm okay and I'm very happy.
The reason I'm asking is I don't believe divorce is failure. I've said this to many of guests before, because I would rather say, well done for leaving a situation that was not serving you anymore.
Whether it's a man or a woman.
To celebrate 60 years of marriage, but you're miserable, you've lost yourself. But the reason I asked is if you still believed in it is because I wasn't sure if the perception, because it is just a perception.
Yes.
I wasn't sure, because in my mind, I think of you as this creative who is at heart a lover. You will try again because as a creative, you love. So when I was saying creatives can be hard to be with because our lifestyles are very different and things are never the same, but at the heart of it, we are lovers, and I believe that of you.
I agree, and I will always be a lover, but that's also like saying lawyers are not lovers, producers are not lovers, soccer players are not lovers. We are in an environment that overexposes us, even in our personal lives. You understand? So everybody's a lover. Everybody's a hater of lovers. Difference is we are overexposed, and we sell papers. There are people that seek out things that the guy that's writing about me probably is the worst abuser of women.
Oh my gosh, we're going to have to leave it there. Ntate Lebo, congratulations on
Thank you
reaching
so
the
much.
6th floor. 30 years of this phenomenal brand. We'll continue
you.
to watch you shine.
Thank you.
Relebogile.
Ke a leboga.
702.
The upside of failure.
Sometimes failure is the foundation of greatest success stories.